Hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Sydney and I started Solely Healing. So this is my first video and I wanted to come on here and talk about what almost killed me, but how I turned it into my passion and how now I'm helping other people with the same thing. So I never really got sick, had a pretty strong immune system, and never thought anything like this would ever happen to me. So I moved into the apartment August of 2018, and within 3 months, my health started deteriorating. I started going downhill and had a host of symptoms. I just thought it was the stress of moving out of my parents' house, starting college, juggling 2 jobs, but I was very wrong. So I started going downhill and didn't really know why. I kind of ignored it. I had some weird symptoms, but just chalked it up to anxiety and depression and stress. So it came around December of 2018 and it was getting worse. I was messing up at work. I was forgetting words. I was hallucinating, panic attacks daily, running into walls, and the list goes on, over 80 different symptoms. And it got to the point where I remember I came to my mom and I was like, my anxiety is so bad. I feel drunk all the time. Like, I didn't know how to explain it. Like, I literally was like, I feel drunk and high all the time. And I was not someone that did that all the time, but that's the only way I could describe how I felt. And she was like, okay, like, let's take you. I had gotten on antidepressants when I was 16 because I really didn't know back then there was anything you could do naturally. So I dealt with pretty bad anxiety and depression due to some traumatic events in my life. So I'd been on an antidepressant since I was 16. So we went to my psychiatrist and pretty much told him what was going on, how I was feeling. And he was like, okay, maybe we need to switch up your anxiety medication. So we went ahead and did that, and little did I know that was going to backfire alone. I ended up being put on Prozac, and I didn't sleep for a week straight. I was having tremors, almost like seizure-like activity, really bad anxiety, felt like I was going to crawl out of my skin. So that I just knew then and there something was seriously wrong. Not that I just had an adverse reaction to an antidepressant, but I knew that this wasn't my problem. An antidepressant was not going to fix my health issues. So after that, I knew it was time to go see a doctor. And so I went to my normal doctor. They ran tons of tests. I told her how I was feeling. Again, I think it's just anxiety. You know, I think it might be all in your head, stress from work and new school and living alone. And I had a roommate, but I was living away from my parents for the first time. And so, you know, I was like, okay, I started doing like kind of a diet to help out, but nothing was helping and I was getting worse every single day. So it came around March of 2019 was when they just kept sending me to different doctors, you know, nothing's wrong, your blood work looks great. You know, I would walk out of appointments bawling because I was like, what is wrong with me? I literally felt like I was gonna die any day. And so finally, a friend had recommended a naturopath in Omaha. I didn't really know we had one. Growing up, I went to chiropractor and I did nutritional and vitamins, but not as in depth as you can go with holistic medicine and naturopathic medicine. So I remember the day I walked in there, I want to say it was the week after I had that adverse reaction from the antidepressant. I walked in there and I remember the naturopath looking at me and looking at my mom, and like I just could see it in her eyes. She's like, holy shit, like something is wrong. Something is wrong. And I was so dizzy, I could barely stand. I had awful anxiety. And when I walked in there, like I knew that she was going to figure out what was wrong and everything was going to be okay. And she reassured me of that. And nothing was more like reassuring that she actually was listening to me and she knew how sick I was, and she wasn't just telling me, hey, it's your anxiety, it's all in your head. So that day she ran extensive blood work, and what I love about naturopaths compared to Western medicine doctors is they run so much blood work. It sucks to get your blood taken, which I hate getting my blood taken, but I remember that day they laid me back on a table because I was in such bad shape, and I remember I just played music, closed my eyes, and prayed to God, like, please figure this out. And so we took tons of vials of blood. And I remember getting a call right away when they got the blood work in. She was like, I want to see you right away. And so thank the Lord for my mom. She has been there every step of the way with me, and my mom and I rushed into an appointment to see her, and pretty much, I mean, everything was messed up in my body, everything. And the thing was, we didn't really correlate that I had gotten worse when my health deteriorated after I had moved into my apartment. You know, I was so bad, I never really correlated that. So she put me on a lot of natural, I guess not what I call them now as Band-Aids. You know, they helped, but they weren't getting to the root cause of my issues. So after a while of building me back up, so I practically wasn't dying. I mean, she told me, your whole body was gray. I did not know if you were gonna make it when you had walked into this office. And so she built me back up, and I can never thank her enough. She saved my life at that time. And, you know, I kept digging for my root cause because I was still so sick, and I had gotten a little bit better where I wasn't dying, but I wasn't able to live my life. And so, you know, what really helped me the most was going on Instagram and in Facebook groups and researching my symptoms, researching what disease this could be, why did this all of a sudden happen. And I came across a girl on Instagram, her name's Balance Blonde, and she actually does podcasts, but she had gotten diagnosed with Lyme. And I had looked up Lyme symptoms, and almost half of my symptoms matched up with Lyme symptoms. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, I think this is what is causing issues. And so my naturopath and she worked so hard with me. You know, I would go in 3 times a week to get IVs, vitamin C, literally just fluids. And I was on so many supplements. Like, I'm gonna picture right here how many supplements I was on, and it was a lot, but you know, I was just willing to do anything to feel better. And so I remember bringing her this information. I was like, I want to get tested for Lyme. And she was like, you know, yeah, I agree. You have a lot of symptoms with Lyme. Like, let's test you. And so we did a blood test for Lyme. And what's hard with Lyme tests is that a lot of times they'll come back negative when you actually do have Lyme. Because what happens is these spirochetes, which is the Lyme, they build up in biofilm, and they don't actually show up in your blood because they like to hide. They're shaped like a corkscrew, and so they hide in organs, they hide in biofilm, they'll hide anywhere, so they pretty much don't want you to know they're there. But luckily, my test did come back positive for Lyme and the 2 co-infections, Bartonella and Babesia. So we decided to put me on the Cowden protocol. It's a herbal protocol that is 10 months long, and you literally have to drink water every 15 minutes with all your herbals. I mean, it is so intense, and at the beginning of it, I herxed a ton, and it was super uncomfortable. And, you know, I just kept feeling worse, and it was nothing against her. She, you know, admitted, you know, I haven't had tons of Lyme cases. I don't know how to treat this far. And like I said, research saved my life. I was in Facebook groups, Instagram groups, every group you could think of, telling people my symptoms, you know, I have Lyme, is there anything else? And so I kept getting replies saying, mold and Lyme go hand in hand. Are you living in mold? I had no idea about mold. I knew obviously mold wasn't good, but I thought it had to be completely covered in your apartment for it to cause issues. So I started digging into mold, and I bought the book Toxic by Neil Nathan. And when I tell you, my jaw dropped when I was reading that book. Every single one of my symptoms, as well as the Lyme symptoms, matched up with mold toxicity symptoms. And that day I knew my apartment was killing me. I had moved into my apartment and had deteriorated since then. But the struggle was I only found little bits of mold in our bathtub and under my toilet, but I never put the correlation together that there was going to be a host of mold in our apartment. What I didn't know back then was just because if you can't see mold doesn't mean it's not hurting you. And so I decided to contact my apartment management, and I told them what was going on and what I thought, and they were like, no mold, you're good. And then, I would tell the people in these Facebook groups what they had said, and they're like, they're not going to admit that you have mold, they're not going to admit that you're dying because of them. You have to take matters into your own hands. So I'd called up 3 local mold companies where I live, and now I know you can't trust all of them because they don't know how in-depthly mold illness can be. So I called them, I told them what was going on. I was like, all my symptoms match up to mold. So I had a guy come out and he tested, and literally 2 days before he came and tested, we had an HVAC closet that was always locked. And so I had never thought anything about it. And the management, I think, had stopped by to change out the filter for our HVAC, and he had left it unlocked. And so I remember opening it because I was like, oh, I wonder what it looks like in here. When I opened it that day, I was like, this is what's killing me. There was mold everywhere. Ceiling, walls, covered in this HVAC closet, which means this mold was permeating throughout my whole entire apartment through the HVAC. I'm going to drop pictures right here of what the inside of the HVAC closet looked like. So I had hired a mold company. They came out, did testing everywhere. This is where being your own advocate comes into play, because you're in your body, no one else is. No one's gonna fight as hard as you are gonna for your own health. And so I had kept telling this guy, this is what's killing me, blah, blah, blah. So he came and he tested. And when we got the results back, now I look back, high, off the charts mold. And he told me, yes, this can cause problems, but I think we can just fog it and you'll be good. And I remember posting my results in a Facebook group for mold illness and told them what my symptoms were, sent all the pictures, and they were like, get out, don't bring anything, get out, run far away. This is what was making you sick. And so pretty much what happened was I was practically wheelchair bound by now, could barely form a sentence, was running into walls, had to quit work, had to move in with my mom. And I had went to my management for my apartment, and they practically told me off, said I was an adult and I should be telling them because my mom was with me because I could barely talk and walk. And anyways, they did nothing. All they did was let me out of my lease early and move someone right into there. Never did anything. And so a lot of people have always said, like, why didn't you sue? And, I wish I could, because it's 2021 and I'm still healing from mold. And this was back in 2018. And at the time, I was dying and money didn't matter. I wanted my health back, and that was the most important thing, was to find someone who's going to treat me and who's going to help me. And so suing wasn't at the top of my list. Will I go back and do it? Maybe. But, what this has driven me to do is to get out the word about mold toxicity and Lyme, because mold toxicity ruined my life, and Western doctors kept telling me it was all in my head, and if it weren't for me being my own advocate, I would have died. And so what I had done was I found a treatment place 3 hours away from us, and I had went there for 2 weeks, and he confirmed, yes, you do have Lyme, yes, you have tons of mold in your body. And that's pretty much what happened. And I'm still healing, I'm still treating, and I will go more in depth in videos, but I wanted to talk about what happened, how I figured it out, and what drove me to become a holistic health practitioner and start a TikTok and start preaching about mold toxicity and Lyme, and how it's a root cause of a lot of illnesses and diseases, yet Western medicine doesn't talk about it. And so I would love if you guys shared this and subscribed, and if you have any questions, please leave them below. I know this is my first video, so it's not gonna be perfect, but yeah, I wanted to talk about my story and what happened. And if you want to, I think I'm gonna do my next video on what my symptoms were. And yeah, so if you like this video, comment, like it, subscribe, and share with others.